I am pre-recording this Saturday night. It is 7:41 p.m. Eastern Time here in the Gribley's Folly Community Garden Massage Parlor and Command Center. The Mueller report has been in for 26 hours now, and no one knows anything. Nobody knows a damn thing, but everybody thinks they know that the fact, what they think they know what the fact that no one knows anything actually means. I know I should stay away from the news. I shouldn't get this caught up in things, but come on. This is history. We've been waiting for this for 2 years. And everybody on the left is like, well, it's been 22 hours now, and Trump hasn't tweeted anything, which must mean he's got spies in the AG's office, and they're leaking what's actually in the report, and it must be devastating. And that's why Trump is hiding under his bed in the Lincoln bedroom right now. He's so scared about what's going to happen after this report. And I'm like, or, I mean, it's just a really long report that took 2 years to write, and the AG actually isn't letting anybody see it because he knows they'd leak it to Trump, so maybe it's just taking a while. And everybody on the right is like, no indictments. This totally clears the president. He's innocent. He's an angel. He's pure as the driven snow. Except that is not how this investigation was ever going to work. They were not supposed to be it wasn't supposed to end with indictments, especially if individual number one, the unindicted co-conspirator, is a sitting president, because there's standard Justice Department policy against indicting a sitting president. It means nothing that there are no new indictments, except maybe that this is all going to drag on a little bit longer. Mostly I'm pissed at you. You know why? Because you're watching this video tomorrow. So you probably already know what's in Mueller's report, and I don't. Right? Because this is still Saturday night here in this reality. And I want to know. I debated about whether I should just not do a Sunday antisocial until this news breaks, right? But we don't know what time tomorrow it's going to break. If it even breaks tomorrow. We don't know, we might get 5 bullet points that aren't really that clear. We have no idea how Barr is going to comport himself, the AG. And so I figured it was best for the show just to go on as planned, even though I can't think about anything else. This is still the time each week when I smoke my pipe and complain about humanity while answering all of its questions. If your question is about what I'm smoking, well, old limey bastard and a diplomat, and I've never liked this pipe. I'm sorry. It smoked great. It performs well, but it's pale. It's uninteresting. I've never bonded with it, and so I had this one on my I had this one on the outside of my pack today, hoping I would lose it in the woods and could justify buying another pipe. But I didn't, so I'm smoking it anyway. Drinking some coffee here. We have a ton of questions to get to. If I can focus. Thank you. I'm feeling better. I did have a little bit of a relapse. An emergency relapse on the banks of the river. It was pretty rough. So with that in mind, Codger Jim, Ask Gribbs, and by the way, if you have a burning question out there, you can always hashtag Ask Gribbs the question in the comment section below on this video or any video, and I will answer it in the next Sunday Antisocial Hour. By the way, if you're a lady, or if YouTube tags your comment as spam, your question gets moved to the front of the line. So, Codger Jim, who I don't think is a lady. I don't think we had any ladies this week. Codger Jim, Ask Gribbs, from the way you stumbled when talking, I wonder, did you puke your brains out too? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I stumble when I'm talking all the time. It's because I get so excited about the things that I'm talking about, and I talk over myself. And but yeah, last week was it was a hard video to record. And this thing really has stuck with me. I still don't feel 100%. I feel like 97%, but having some GERD or GRED or whatever that, I'm just having some issues that I wasn't having before I got the stomach virus. Anyway, and there was that episode by the river. Ziggy Num Nums Ask Gribbs, I believe that we should petition the mayor to make Wild Turkey 101 the official bourbon of the YTPC. What are your thoughts? Well, Ziggy, I think it's dangerous to have an official bourbon because I think that sort of like having an official language in a country, you then run the risk of alienating some folks, you know? I mean, far be it for me to tell Mr. Tant or anyone else which bourbon they should take more seriously than others. Obviously, I am an uneducated rube when it comes to bourbon. However, if we must choose an official bourbon, I think Wild Turkey 101 would be pretty good. It's kind of every man's bourbon. You know, it's not so expensive. I was going to say Buffalo Trace, because that's my preference, but I think that Wild Turkey is you know, it's great bar whiskey. And sometimes, and especially, Norbo, I know you're watching, especially in the bottom 85% of the YTPC, we like to slum it a little bit. So I think Wild Turkey is pretty good. Cobbett of the Shire asks Gribbs, what is the sound of one hand clapping? John Gallieri asks Gribbs, what is the most amazing sky you can ever remember seeing? This will be a good story. I was the son of a minister. I am the son. He was a minister when he was alive. My father was a minister, and at one point we had to go down to the low country of South Carolina for him to officiate a funeral. And the whole family had to go. This was after we had moved to the upstate. And the whole family had to go because it was someone who I should really probably remember whose funeral it was, but I don't. But I do remember that it was, you know, like super hot, super humid. And as we were frantically getting ready, because we never did anything on time in my family, well, my dad did. I think he had already gone ahead, but my mom was trying to get me ready. I remember that. I remember getting ready in my grandmother's room at the nursing home. And anyway, as we were getting ready, there was a tornado watch, warning or watch, one of those. I think it actually was a warning. But, I mean, what are you going to do? Cancel the funeral? So we went out, you know, way the hell out into the county somewhere. And all walked out of the grave and all stood there while my dad went on and on about the funeral, the usual stuff. I mean, you know, my dad was a good minister, but it's not like, that's not really a minister's like shining moment, like the most entertaining funeral ever. That's not, they don't really reach for that. Anyway, so we're standing there and I'm bored. And I was like 8. And I look up and the clouds right above, like literally straight up, are spinning like a damn corkscrew. And it looked like latte art, the way the clouds were spinning. And we were underneath a freaking tornado. And that's the only time, no, that's not true. I've seen one other tornado, but it didn't touch down. So it was just a funnel cloud. Excuse me, weather nerds. It was just a funnel cloud. It did not actually become a tornado, didn't touch down. But yeah, I remember that pretty well. Speaking of the Deep South, and knowing that I am a true Southern gentleman, Francis Barnett asked Gribbs, if I join a Civil War reenactment society wearing the uniform of a general, can I just assume the role of a general, or is there some sort of rigorous selection process to go through? Well, Francis, you're thinking about this all wrong. And I hate to be the one to tell you this, but the fact that you even asked this question just shows that you're not officer material. What you do is, you wait till the day of the reenactment, and you put on your general's outfit, and you just show up and take command. When people ask who you are, you say, I am your commanding officer, and you will, by God, respect me. A follow-up question from Francis. Has any hat or cap ever looked better on film than the red cap worn by Harry Dean Stanton in Paris, Texas? I think not. Well, Francis, again, I hate to be the one to tell you this, but have you ever seen Indiana Jones? Yeah, that would be what we like to call a segue. All right, Bearded Skywalker says, going back to Crocodile Dundee versus Indiana Jones, which was a topic last week, what if you threw in Steve Irwin and Jack Hanna and had the formidable tag team battle with Jones Irwin versus Dundee Hanna? Who do you think would win? Indiana Jones always wins. I'm sorry, Crocodile Dundee was awesome, but he never actually had to fight people. Well, he did in the second movie. But they were just like, I mean, they were like drug lords, you know? They weren't like, I mean, they were obviously bad guys. There's never been a good guy versus good guy fight in a Crocodile Dundee movie that I know of. I guess, I mean, you know, that thing where he shoots Walter. But anyway, Indiana Jones has all sorts of moral ambiguity about who actually is the good guy, and we see him prevail all the time. By the way, the Irwin Hannah, that's just, no. I mean, that basically you're just asking, like, you know, who gets to roast the animal on the spit while Indiana Jones and Crocodile Dundee are out doing the manly stuff. Over a Pipe asks Gribbs, which of these survivalists would you partner with on a survival trip and why? Bear Grylls, Les Stroud, or Dave Canterbury? This is going to require a relight. So for this scenario, I'm going to assume that I am in a survival situation, like not a survival trip, but a situation. Like something has happened and I have to survive and I have one of these dudes to hang out with. I don't know who Les Stroud is. I mean, I know who he is. I don't know anything about him. So I probably wouldn't choose him because if I'm in a survival situation, I don't want uncertainty, right? So that leaves Canterbury or Grills. Grizz, whatever the hell his name is. And, you know, Dave Canterbury is cool. I think didn't he get caught, like, cheating on something, though? But actually, I would kind of want that in a survival situation. Like, I don't care about the rules. I want to survive. So, on the other hand, Bear Grylls does have a signature Gerber knife, which means that I would have fewer qualms about killing Bear Grylls and eating him if I were in a survival situation. I'm old enough to remember when Gerber made good knives. How old does that make me? I mean, seriously, like, when I was a kid, it was like, oh, that's a Gerber. Oh, cool. Yeah. And then, like, by the time I was, like, a young adult, I was like, oh, that's a Gerber. Final answer. Bear Grylls. I'm going to eat him. I'm just going to eat him. A 30-06 asks Gribbs, a pipe-related question for you. Weird on a quasi-pipe channel. What is this quasi-pipe channel? This is a pipe channel, 100% a pipe channel. I just don't smoke a pipe in every video because sometimes I've just had the stomach virus. Or I'm out. Usually if I'm on a hike, I don't smoke. Smoking and exercising at the same time isn't really my thing. But the question is, there is Burley and Virginia, which are different types of tobacco, different species of tobacco. If Cavendish and Latakia are tobaccos that are created by treatment, what were they before the treatment? Good question. So I'm going to answer this by the seat of my pants, and then I'm going to look up the actual truth. So, Cavendish, my impression is that Cavendish can be any type of tobacco, but it's typically a cheaper tobacco, so Burley. And Cavendish is steamed, topped, pressed, added to lots of gunk, PG, and flavoring, and it tastes like a candy bar. But it started life as Burley, and it's probably not the highest cut of Burley because that would just become Burley. I remember wondering what the original, like what Latakia becomes Latakia after the curing and the smoking, and I remember wondering the same thing, and I never found an answer, but my impression was that it was Virginia's because Virginias grow everywhere. So it is a Virginia tobacco that is then cured in Syria with the blah 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 blah. But now I'm hearing terrible things about a Latakia shortage, and for all of my stoicism about tobacco hoarding, if there's going to be an actual Latakia shortage of any Latakia, Cyprian Latakia as well as the Syrian. I'm gonna be piling that stuff up to the roof, and then I'm gonna climb on top of it with my rifle and sit there and wait. From Wikipedia, Latakia tobacco is specially prepared tobacco originally produced in Syria, named after the port city of Latakia. Tobacco is mainly produced in Cyprus now. Initially sun-cured like other Turkish tobaccos. Then further blah 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 blah. Mainly grown in Cyprus and northern Syria. After the leaves are harvested and dried. Blah, blah, blah. It was discovered when a bumper crop resulted in surplus. The excess tobacco was stored in the rafters. The peasants traditionally used wood, blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows this stuff, right? Like if you're part of the YTPC, you know the lore of how Latakia was produced. There is no citation for that, by the way. Ingredient of traditional English mixtures. Few smokers like it 100%. Okay, let's follow the link for Turkish tobaccos and see if it defines what that actually is. Oh, crap. Turkish tobacco is a highly aromatic, Interesting use of the word. Small-leafed variety of tobacco, which is sun-cured. Historically, it was cultivated Macedonia, Greece, blah, 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 is now grown in the Black Sea off the coast of Turkey. The name Turkish just refers to the Ottoman Empire. Okay, hang on, I'm going to keep reading. Stop. So this is talking about cigarette production. It says Turkish tobacco plants usually have less nicotine, carcinogens, in particular, blah, 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 mixing Turkish with Virginia and Burley. So this leads me to believe that Turkish is not a Virginia. However, the definition of a Virginia is not specific to... I don't know. Okay, here under the, types of tobacco on Wikipedia, again, another fire-cured tobacco is Latakia that is produced from oriental varieties of in tabacum, which is the Latin name for tobacco. So it's just a different variety of the same thing, right? Confirmed. Oriental tobacco is a sun-cured, highly aromatic, small-leaf variety of in tabacum, Nicotiana tabacum. So, you heard it here first. Typing Piper asked Gribbs. By the way, I'm kind of doing some shady business dealings with Typing Piper and another tab over here as we speak. Typing Piper asked Gribbs, I have heard in the past, a baby seal walks into a club and they never finish the story. What the hell happens next? Well, Typing Piper, the reason they never finish it is that it's kind of a sad story. It's because it's a little grotesque as well. So the baby seal walks into the club and is like, hey ladies, and all the ladies are fawning over the baby seal, and then it slips roofies into their drinks. And you can imagine why it's a cautionary tale. I think there's more to be learned here. Why would a talking seal, who's like, number one, the cutest animal on the planet, and number two, it's talking, so it's like the most valuable animal. It's totally the most famous animal on the planet. Why would it need to stoop to those lengths to get laid? Contemplative Piper. Ask Gribbs. Many in the YTPC also enjoy fountain pens. Do you? No. I don't. I've never seen the point. Enlighten me. Tell me why I need to get into fountain pens, because to me it just looks like another super expensive hobby that doesn't really have any practical purpose, and I have enough of those already. Contemplative Piper follows up with, what would be the top 3 worst things to vomit? Or what are the worst 3 things which you have vomited? In my experience, popcorn is rough. Yeah. Well, okay, so number 1, Southern Comfort. Now we get into what makes it worse to vomit, because obviously the sensation of vomiting is a big factor here, but there is also the avoidant reflex. If you eat something, like let's say you eat a hamburger and then you vomit for whatever reason, even if it's not actually related to the hamburger, you don't want to eat a hamburger for a long time, right? And this has definitely happened to me right before my last bout of the stomach virus. I ate a giant bowl of tofu that my mother-in-law prepared. And I have never eaten it since. And when she specifically prepares it, I can't be in the same room. So there are foods that, it would be terrible to vomit, because then you would never want to eat them again. Southern Comfort is not one of those. I'm going to go for number 2. I'm going to go for cold Pizza Hut pizza, because that's one of my favorite foods. And I often have it in a situation where I would be more prone to vomiting. By the way, I had some whiskey last night and woke up with a terrible headache. I'm so out of party shape. So, I mean, I've never actually thrown up from being drunk, except for the Southern Comfort thing. But that wasn't even true vomiting. It was more like regurgitating, because the Southern Comfort was so bad. So, of course, then the number 1 food would be brown sugar Pop-Tarts, because A, it would make you not want to eat brown sugar Pop-Tarts. And I mean, why even continue living at that point? And B, what a waste of brown sugar Pop-Tarts. Timber Drifter, man, you're on a roll lately, dude. All right, in what lost biblical book is the story told of the savior of the sacred plants during the Great Flood? Eat, Pray, Love. And because I don't actually think you can answer that question, here's another. Ask Gribbs. Imagine this. You walk out of a gas station in your town after purchasing your gas and junk food. When you reach your car, you begin to notice something is different It's too quiet. You glance around and realize no other humans are visible. Several cars are at the pumps, but nobody's standing by them. No kids in the back seats looking at phones. Nobody's walking the dog down the sidewalk. Nobody pushing open the glass doors, slurping on a big gulp. You look back at the station and the clerk you just paid is not visible. So you go back in, you call for help, but you get no answer. Just the quiet hum of the cooler compressors running. You wait a moment. Nothing. Walk back outside and still nothing has changed. It's been several minutes already. More pass. As you stand there looking around, still no people. No sound of people. Nothing. What would you think at that moment? What would be your explanation to yourself as to why this was happening? Ghost Cobb, if you're watching this, I would love to hear your answer to this question too. I remember that Ghost Cobb and I both responded to a VR a while back about something about like if you had to live the rest of your life alone. Yeah, I would, well, I would immediately assume I was in a hypothetical question. That some outside force had done this to see how I would react, that I was being watched, I was in a simulation or something. For some reason, I'm the only one left. Although I guess I probably would look for clues as to why I would be the only one left. Like, was I standing under a magnet or something? Like, you know, why did everyone disappear but me? And then I would wonder if I actually had not disappeared. How do those people think that they are still there? So then I would actually have to get down to the business of surviving in that environment, which I think I answered in a previous video. I would not want to. But what would be my explanation as to why this was happening? You know, at this point in my life, I'm pretty good at proceeding without explanations. I don't know that I would waste too much time thinking about that. If I couldn't find an immediate answer, I would assume that I were part of some experience, like that someone wanted to see what I would do in this situation, someone, something, and you know, I was answering a hypothetical question posed by people on the internet in the reality above mine that were simulating my reality. Even though that almost gave me a panic attack. Thank you, Timber Drifter, for your question. Always nice to hear from you. Derek Tant, Ask Gribbs, what is the ultimate benchmark for manliness? And I'm very glad Derek Tant asked, because this question is pertinent to our times when we don't know what men are, who men are, is masculinity toxic? Are there really men, or are there just males, and gender is a construct? We don't know. We just don't know. And so I have an answer for this, and it's a serious answer, actually, after everything else in this video. The benchmark for manliness is, and I would say it's a benchmark for personliness. I think that this is a thing for women too, but especially for men, the benchmark is how much faith do you have in your inner core ideals, and how well do you conform to them over the long term? I think it's important because obviously most people watching this are men. That's why ladies get moved to the front of the line, right? My YouTube analytics, whatever, YouTube tells me that 99% of my viewers are very, very male. And obviously pipe smoking is a male-dominated thing. So is hat wearing and fishing and, you know, all the other stuff that I do. You can make up a bunch of trite phrases, like a man says what he means and means what he says. Or, you know, a man plays his hand close to the vest. Whatever, like all that stuff. What that all boils down to is a man knows who he is and he follows that code. Like who you are is what code you follow, right? And the more in touch with that you are, and the less you let distractions bother you, the more of a man you are. In the end, measures of manhood all come down to dick measuring contests, right? Like, oh, you know, I smoke a pipe and so is a vapor, so I'm obviously more of a man. Or somebody's got a better beard than me, so he's more of a man. Somebody's got a bigger dick than me. He's more of a man. Whatever. It all comes down to that. Any material thing, any practical thing in life, you know, how can you quantify the cohesion to your moral code? It's an intangible thing, but I think that that is truly what separates men from boys. Actually, yeah, I think that I consider myself a boy. Like looking back, I was a boy until about like 28. You know, I mean I was a lot more mature than a lot of other people I knew, but at the same time, I think that being a man is something that is learned over time by going through trials and then relating to yourself afterwards. Like, did I really act the way I should have there? Was I really the person that I like to think of myself as? I will say this, I think that adulthood is something that you truly don't reach until you have children. So I think for men and women, whatever, until you have a kid, you're just a kid. And that's great. For some folks, that's awesome. Keep being a kid. More power to you. Parenthood is really, really hard. But it changes you in such a way that you realize, oh, I was just a kid. Like, I didn't understand. I didn't understand the things that really matter. And I will also say that I read somewhere that a man is not a man until his father dies. And having lost my dad at the night before I turned 30, I think there's some truth to that. It's probably that a person is not a person until the parent that they most emulate dies, because then you're the guy, like you're the man, because there's no one more senior than you are. So then you really have to take stock and say, wow, like there's nobody I could, like, that was the big thing for me on losing my dad. It's like, well, who do I go to now for like dad stuff, like advice and stuff like that? And it was like, well, there's no one. There's no one to go to. And then I realized that was how my dad had lived his life the entire time that my grandfather died before I was born. And so my dad had, in the time that I knew him, never had a dad to go to and say, man, what do I do with this kid? Because God, like every day I'm like, I wish I could ask my dad, like, what the hell do I do here, Dad? He's not around. And that was the same for him. But I never knew that. I never had, an inkling that he didn't know what he was doing. And so you really realize that like now you're the guy that has to act like you know what you're doing. But in the end, I think, having a kid and losing your parent, I think that those things, they aren't the real thing. That's not the real measure. I think that they knock you down to size so that you can start to grapple with the real measure, which is how do you relate to your moral code over the long term or in really, really stressful situations? How do you follow your code? Because that's, in the end, that's the only thing you can really control. I can't control my beard pattern or how big my dick is, but I can control whether or not I'm a good person by my own standards. And again, I think that's very, very timely for 8:37 on the night before we're supposed to get the Mueller results. All right, this pipe is an excellent smoker. What do I do to bond with this pipe? I mean, obviously I've had it a while, but it's just never felt like a pipe that's really going to be my favorite. What kind of crucible do I have to go through with this pipe? Should I throw it in the river and then fish it back out? Because that's happened with my favorite pipe quite a bit. Do I need to like stain it another color? One of the things that I like about the Legend is that it's stained a better color than the Colonel. So I wonder if I could color it somehow. I don't know how to color a corncob pipe. I'm sure most of you do. But yeah, this has been an excellent smoke. So I really should try to make better friends with this pipe. That's all the time we have this Sunday. Thank you so much for watching. It's been a pleasure. I'm still pissed that you know more than I do because you're in the future. But maybe I'll do another video tomorrow when you'll be in the past. Keep the ends out for the ties that bind.